We are also now in the midst of an ongoing showdown between the administration and the Democratic-led Congress over these new whistleblower claims that the White House has been overruling career security staff to hand out security clearances to people who would otherwise not be approved for them. And while security clearance procedure may seem like an arcane thing, what this boils down to is that it means the Trump administration, the Trump White House, has been insisting on making classified information available to people who are considered to be too much of a risk to handle such information. And they've been overruling career security staff in order to do it. Well, today, in the midst of that ongoing standoff, we got a new story to put in this quiver. Tonight, a charging document in a Florida court indicates that the president's private club in Florida, Mar-a-Lago, was just this weekend the site of a very strange security breach of its own. A Secret Service affidavit filed in court today states that a woman this weekend on Saturday presented herself at Mar-a-Lago at the Secret Service perimeter checkpoint there. She told the agents that she wanted to use the pool. She showed 2 different Chinese passports to the Secret Service agents at Mar-a-Lago, and despite the fact that they weren't totally clear on what she was doing there and she was showing them Chinese passports, they nevertheless let her in. They didn't just let her in, she was brought to the front desk at Mar-a-Lago in a valet-driven golf cart. Then, having arrived at reception at the front desk, the receptionist at Mar-a-Lago found that the woman couldn't give any real or plausible explanation as to what she was actually doing there. Luckily, the Mar-a-Lago receptionist was on the case. That receptionist called the Secret Service back to say, I don't know why you let this person in, but she doesn't seem cleared to be here. She doesn't seem to be here for any legit reason. The Secret Service then, questioned her again. She told them that she wanted to talk to members of the Trump family about Chinese-U.S. economic relations. They then, at that point, finally noticed that even though they'd let her in because she said she wanted to use the pool, she didn't actually have a swimsuit on her. But they did find that she was carrying 4 cell phones, an external hard drive, a laptop, and a thumb drive that the Secret Service discovered was infected with some sort of malware. She brought all of that stuff into the president's private club during the president's visit this weekend. Again, luckily, the receptionist was on the case. So we're protected, America. I mean, this comes hot on the heels of news that another woman was literally marketing access to the president and his family members and Trump cabinet officials at Mar-a-Lago for a price. She was marketing a package to Chinese nationals, marketing it in China. The deal was you would pay her cash money, and then she'd get you to Florida, get you into Mar-a-Lago, and get you access to Trump officials, Trump family members, and maybe the president himself, if you paid her. She is also a member of numerous organizations affiliated with the Chinese government and the ruling Chinese Communist Party. She also owns day spas across Florida and was the original owner of the one where Patriots football team owner Robert Kraft and at least one other major Republican Party donor were recently arrested in a prostitution sting. So naturally, that's who's selling access to the president at Mar-a-Lago. You know, what could possibly go wrong? I will say, for my money, all of this latest Mar-a-Lago stuff pales against the time that the President Trump allowed all the paying guests at a Mar-a-Lago dinner to basically sit in on a makeshift situation room as he and Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe strategized about how to respond to a surprise North Korean missile launch. Remember that one? It's an outdoor dinner at Mar-a-Lago, and they convene all of their advisors to deal with the missile launch and start looking at all the documents. That's the one where staffers and waiters were gathered around the prime minister and the president, looking at all these sensitive and classified materials, and the staffers and waiters were using the flashlights on their cell phones to illuminate the documents so those world leaders could read them more easily, because it was outdoors and it was nighttime. Luckily, I'm sure those phones definitely had no cameras in them whatsoever. They were definitely just flashlight phones and not camera phones, so I'm sure it was fine to have them illuminating classified documents in that moment. I'm sure everything was super secure. As Democrats in Congress continue to raise concerns about the Trump administration's ability to handle national security matters and classified information, Today, the Oversight Committee, led by Congressman Elijah Cummings, approved a subpoena to the security director from the White House Personnel Office, who was involved in security clearance decisions that a whistleblower has now brought to the attention of Congress. This is an 18-year career official. She works as a security adjudications manager for the Office of Administration and the Executive Office of the President, which means she looks over people's background checks to decide if they can get security clearances. She says she has a list of over 24 cases in which career security officials recommended against issuing a clearance for someone who applied for one in the Trump administration. And on more than 24 occasions, she says there was intervention from the Trump White House to overrule those career security officials and disregard the red flags that came up in people's background checks to give people clearances they otherwise wouldn't have been able to obtain. As Congress is now investigating her claims, her former supervisor, who until recently was security director at the White House Personnel Office, he today was subpoenaed by Congress.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.